Hey everybody, in this episode, it's myself, Ben, and Dr. Tambini. What we're talking about today is rituals within addiction. It's pretty fascinating. When people get clean and sober, we start to identify different rituals that we used to have in our addictions and in our alcoholism. It's a pretty interesting conversation. What you're going to learn from this are rituals that maybe you have enacted in the past and how to replace those rituals with healthy things moving forward. Parents and loved ones, this also pertains to you. You have rituals that pertain to you as well. We unpack all that and more in this episode. Enjoy the show. Here we are, Real Recovery Talk. I am your host, Tom Conrad. In today's episode, we've got Benjamin B.
What's happening, everybody?
And we've got Dr. T.
Hello.
First things first, thank you for tuning in on the podcast app, whichever one that you choose to use. And thank you for watching on YouTube. In the end, if you have any comments, questions, or concerns, you could always reach us, info@realrecoverytalk.com. Again, that's info@realrecoverytalk.com. And ultimately, we want to help you turn your mess into your message, right, peeps?
Yes, sirree.
That's right.
Also, go to realrecoverytalk.com, and you're going to see a little link on the homepage that says schedule a call. Click that and set up your free consultation call with us. I emphasize free. Why wouldn't you take advantage of that? You can talk to one of us about your specific situation, and we potentially can help you out and help you navigate whatever it is that you're going through. Also, go to realrecoverytalk.com/guide. There you're going to find five different guides that you can choose from, scan through them, pick which one best fits your needs, or just download all of them. And it should be a good thing for you to have. And also, you can go to realrecoverytalk.com/services. There you're going to find 3 links. And they are opportunities for you to schedule calls with either myself, Ben, or Dr. Tambini. And we like to do these in hour segments because an hour goes by very quickly, as we know. So you sign up and you can have a conversation with one of us, and basically you have us for an hour and you can discuss whatever it is that you need. Tambini's going to obviously cover a lot of things medical. Ben, what would you cover in those calls?
I don't know, Tom. A lot.
Okay, well, glad you know your product, Ben.
I feel like if people are calling, they kind of know what I have from listening to podcasts. See the logic there?
Yeah.
Or did I just totally disappoint
I think
you?
most people call in and say, this is my situation. And then you and Tom are really good at taking it in and saying, all right, here's what needs to happen. Or give me more background info and navigate it that way.
Thank you for rescuing me.
You're welcome.
Mm-hmm.
Tom was about to knock me out.
Tom is Grumpy Tom today, everybody.
No, I'm not. I'm in a good mood today. Great mood. Everything is okay. So go to realrecoverytalk.com/services, sign up for a call, and you have us for an hour. We'll discuss whatever it is that you want. So, okay, friends, here we are. Today, we're going to be talking about something that we have talked about ad nauseum in the past, but we find it necessary to bring it up again. Ben, I'm going to let you take it from here.
We have not talked about this ad nauseum.
Kind of.
Maybe. Told you he's grumpy.
I know.
He was right. All right, we'll roll. So I wanted to talk about the power of rituals within using. Dr. T.
Never mind. I thought we were talking about something different. Go ahead.
Ooh.
Ooh.
What?
Spicy tamale.
Yeah.
No, I thought we were going to talk about Sublocade.
Oh.
Okay, well, I think this can tie into that because there is a ritual associated with taking Suboxone or Subutex. So
all right.
we can back this up.
Right. I'm in a great mood. Just a disclaimer. So both of you can go fly a effing kite.
So, Ben, what were you going to start with before you got interrupted?
The power of rituals, for instance, and also exposure therapy, too. And Dr. T brought up a point that I didn't even think of either from her perspective as a medical doctor working in detox, and we'll kind of cover some of these. But just to like kind of come out the gate a little hardcore, to give an example, IV drug users, for instance, there is an absolute ritual with using a needle. For me, the needle was just as important as the drug itself. For instance, if I ended up with some heroin or some Oxycontin and you told me to eat it or snort it, I'd probably have a meltdown. If I didn't have a syringe to be able to do it the way that I wanted to do it, I lost it. That's all there is to it. And to kind of push it even further, there was times, like say for instance, I only had a limited amount of dope or oxys left or whatever the drug was. I would in between literally just pull water out of a water bottle and shoot the water into my arm so that I was going through the ritual of doing it. Mm-hmm. You know, there was another instance, I'll try not to get too war story, but just to give examples, like one night, for instance, shooting crack. Well, my friends were smoking it, but I didn't have any vinegar to be able to shoot it. And there was vodka. So I'm like, oh, I'll just shoot this vodka in place and smoke the crack. So at least I'm shooting something. But the insanity of it is it wasn't even the drug itself. Don't get me wrong. I needed the drug, but going through that process, and I wanted to bring up exposure therapy because this can go, you could tie this into anything like the liquor store, for instance, a habit of going to the liquor store, but exposure therapy in particular, and I've only experienced this one time. This was at a treatment center in Minnesota, and I do not know if I agree or disagree with this. I get the point, but I'd have to say I don't think it's a safe practice. And when I started bringing it up, Tom looked at me earlier like, kind of like, where in the world are you going with this? Because I don't know that we've ever talked about this. Mm-mm. So at the treatment center I went to, we had what we call caseload groups, where you are with the same group with one therapist for the entire treatment stay. So it was 6 or 7 men with the one therapist, and you're with the same 6 or 7 guys, so you get to know each other really well. Well, there was a contract that the new people weren't aware of, where they partake in this exercise. So one day I show up, and they do it about the 2 or 3 week mark. I forget. I'd been there for 2 or 3 weeks, and all of a sudden one day, therapist sits down and busts out this shoebox, and everybody's sitting there quietly. The people that have been through it before didn't say a peep. And all of a sudden, the therapist was like, Ben, take this shoebox. Open up the shoebox. I open up the shoebox, and there's all these different brands of syringes. There's Q-tips, cigarette filters, lighters, matches, little water ampules, water bottle with water in it. Anything you could need to fix a rig up to stick a needle in your arm. And they literally have you say, okay, grab the things that you would normally use and cook yourself up a shot. And the whole idea behind it is that they see you in the beginning, and then afterwards they ask you to evaluate yourself physically. Mm-hmm. My palms were drenched in sweat. I was like, my heart was racing. I felt sick to my stomach, that excitement. And when you're done with the whole thing, they basically say, don't bring this up and let the next guy experience it just the way you did. It was like you're this verbal contract that you're not going to tell people what's coming, because they wanted to catch you off guard. In this group in particular, they also did the same thing with meth and crack. They had, for the crackheads and the meth heads, they had a shoebox that pertained to them. And, the crack guy had to pull out the stem, and I think it was like Tylenol or something. It was fake crack, but like you literally had to load it up in there, push the chore boy in there, all that stuff. And just to kind of like hit home the point, that physiological response was their point, like to see how you're responding to it. Like, so when you get out in real life, what's it going to be like when you, in a simpler instance, drive by the drug dealer, drive by the liquor store? You're probably going to have some sort of physiological response, and I think they wanted you to know how powerful that was going to be. I don't know if I agree with that practice or not, because after that, I'll just say I relapsed after that after that treatment center, because it like kicked that mental obsession in way stronger than it was. It was still strong at the time, but I think doing that like set me back. I don't think I'd find myself in a position where I'm practicing.
Yeah, that's a lot. I mean, I can see the benefit, but I definitely see more like negatives than pros. I think there's a way to do it and, not that way, but I can see the point in there is that visceral response and that habit, that routine that's there that they're trying to show you, and that your body has that visceral response to it. And how are you going to cope with it, and how are you going to deal with it, I guess, is what they were trying to get at when you are outside of the treatment realm. And I think there's ways to go about it, but I think that was a little extreme.
Yeah, I don't I don't particularly like that, because I think that it just from a treatment center perspective, I think it opens you up to too much. There's too much risk involved with it. I couldn't even imagine implementing something like that here. Having a shoebox and taking it into group and literally having needles and all this stuff. I don't know. I don't like that. I think there's much easier ways to go about it. Maybe, like a picture, might be suffice.
But I know in some, even here, we show movies related to that type of stuff on instances, and then have processing after the movies.
Yeah,
We've done that, and I think that's less,
It's less invasive. T, pull the mic up a little closer to there.
I just had a memory kick in. The very first time that I went to treatment was on North Lake Boulevard here in Palm Beach Gardens. And I was in the IOP program, living in the sober home. Was the first time an episode of Intervention ever aired. It was the first one ever. And I remember, like, we're all in the sober house, like, watching this. And granted, all of us in there only had between 30 and 60 days. I just remember, like, watching that and being like, the craving went through the roof, the mental obsession. Like, I think the point in Intervention for the normal person is to kind of scare people. Mm-hmm. Like, if you're a normie and you're watching this, you're like, oh my God, that's disgusting. I'm like watching this naked chick on meth run around her living room, and I'm like, whoa, that looks like fun. Right? When I'm 30, 60 days clean, I do think that exposure therapy is useful. In a respect, we kind of do it here, where, like, with our PHP level of care, we do want there to be some level of exposure. Like, that's why we bring our clients to the grocery store where there is a wine and beer aisle, like, realistic. But those extreme examples,
that's what I was going to say. That's more of an organic type, like things that just happen organically that you really sometimes don't have any control over. You totally have control over whether, in fact, you're going to put a syringe in your hand, let alone in your arm. You know what I mean? And even liquor stores and drug dealers' homes and stuff like that, generally speaking, there's always another route that you can take to not drive past your drug dealer's house. But, we spend a lot of time telling people to limit your exposure to these things whenever you transition out of the treatment process. Don't necessarily, go crazy with it, but, like, let's just use bars, for instance, because alcohol is readily available anywhere you go. In the beginning, it probably makes sense. Like, for me, I wouldn't, if I'm fresh out of treatment, I wouldn't go to Tony's Lounge for dinner or for lunch or whatever. I just wouldn't do that. I wouldn't have gone to really any bars fresh out of treatment, because I'm exposing myself to something that probably isn't good. But as time goes on, and as you have more sobriety time, as you work on yourself more, you can slowly start exposing yourself to this stuff, but not intentionally. Don't avoid dinner just because it's at a bar, restaurant, or whatever. I can't think of a scenario, though, where you would not be able to avoid crack or heroin, or, you know what I'm saying? Like, let me ask you. You're obviously an IV heroin user, junkie. In the 14 years that you've been clean, 13 and some change that you've been clean, When it's non-work related, obviously you've exposed yourself to that stuff in work-related instances. We can reference Rainbow Foods. You took me on that freaking wild goose chase. And there's obviously drugs involved there, but that's in the context of getting somebody help, and you had multiple years of sobriety. If it wasn't work-related, have you ever been exposed to crack, heroin, meth, any of the things?
Not in particular that I can remember. However, I will say, and I do know this for a fact from my experience, that for some reason, people in early recovery have like a sign on their back that says, I'm in early recovery. I live in a halfway house. I mean, I'll just call it what it is there, because there's been instances where I've had clients that are in IOP and they don't have a vehicle yet, and they're doing the right thing, walking to work, whatever the case may be, and a drug dealer will see them on the corner walking, doing what they're supposed to be doing, and just the drug dealer puts two and two together. That person's in a halfway house. I'm going to go ask them if they're good. So I do know that happens. And I mean, but at the same time, back to your point, like there's other routes, sometimes and if you're not familiar with the area, maybe you experience that once and then start going a different way, whatever the case may be there. But for the most part, though, to answer your question, it is avoidable, and it hasn't happened to me like that.
There's two substances, and I have a question for you after this. Alcohol and pot seem to be the two. Well, and kratom. We could throw kratom in there. Seem to be the main substances that are unavoidable in some capacity. You walk into a gas station, kratom's there. Alcohol's there. And in certain states, pot's there. I think they're. I don't know if they're in gas stations.
The Delta 8, Delta 9 pens, which are like if you smoke them, it's getting hot. It's
a derivative of THC in some capacity. I don't know.
They have Zaza. They have, all tiantapine, which is like
what's that?
The Zaza Red. It's called gas station heroin. It gets you just as. Feels like you get it. It's highly addictive. It's like coming off of opiates.
That's like in gas stations.
Tenepatine. Remember, we were interviewing that guy on the phone yesterday. We were have him on the podcast. Yeah, that's what we were talking about.
That's in gas stations here.
I don't know if it's in Florida, but I know in other states it is.
Yeah.
Why? I don't understand how. And this is a little bit of a rabbit trail, but like, how? Why? Like, what's the what?
I mean, it's like any other new cutting edge synthetic drug.
They have DMT pens, vape pens now, by the way, at gas stations around here.
What?
Oh my God.
A few of the other centers.
Like real DMT?
I mean, I've never tried it. But
she just winked at us.
From what I've heard, from what the clients have said.
Wow.
But that's a rabbit hole. Finish what you were saying.
I forget
the exposure going into the gas stations, grocery stores, you're exposed to all these things every single day.
Yeah. I mean, there's certain things that are just unavoidable, but that's why it's important to really, like, you have to be on guard. Even Ben, like what you were saying, like just the same as like, people that are in early recovery, sometimes they're not literally wearing a sign on their back, but they're easy to spot out, especially down here. Like I can tell you who's in early recovery, who's in a halfway house, yada, 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 just by at first glance. Just the same as that's true. They're also drug addicts and people that are in early recovery they are able to spot the drug dealers. You know what I mean? Just the same as they're able to spot them. So don't put yourself in a position to even be within, eye shot or earshot of a drug dealer. Sometimes it's unavoidable. I understand that, but again, I can understand going to a gas station at say 11 o'clock at night and the drug dealer standing there on the corner. This isn't my thing, so I don't know, but like probably a lot more likely that you're going to get offered drugs at 11 o'clock at night versus 11 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah.
Don't put yourself in a position to where you're like, oh, I want to go get a Red Bull at 11 o'clock at night. And you go to the gas station and the drug dealer's there. Like, you got to have some common freaking sense.
Yeah, and when I brought this up too, I kind of want to change directions a little bit, like with the rituals and the patterns. Doc T and I, we were having a little conversation before we got this going, and you brought up a good example in detox.
Yeah,
that I didn't think of. You want to share that?
Yeah, and this before I say is because I think it's easier said than done, right? Tell people avoid this, do that, but this is why we tell people to go to treatment away from their home.
Yeah,
away from where they're comfortable, away from their routine, away from their rituals, because it's easier said than done. And we have to teach people these things. We talk about it like it's easy. You just do X, Y, and Z, but it's not easy for that person in early recovery going through treatment. And we have to teach them and we have to reinforce it. And they have to learn new rituals and new patterns. And they have to replace their old rituals and their patterns. And that takes months to years. So we're talking in a vacuum right now, right? Like it's easy, but when you break it down, it's really difficult for people. But what I was talking to Ben about was, I get calls all the time from the nursing staff, like, Tommy H has been at the nursing station every 2 hours asking for every single medication that we can give as a comfort med. And he's still saying he doesn't feel well. And he's still saying we're not medicating him enough. And it's every single day. And so it's like by the third day, I even have to re-educate the staff. Guys, Tommy H is fine. Physically, he's fine. Mentally, he's not fine because he has that mental obsession when he's home or he's out on the street using. He's probably using every 2 hours, every 3 hours around the clock. And that was his pattern. That was his ritual. So, and I know it's frustrating to have to, talk to him and comfort him. But this is something that we need to identify as a behavior to him to make him aware because he is not even aware of what he's doing right now. And so at that moment, it's a learning point for the patient, but also for the staff, for his therapist to sit down with him and process what's going on and why he's doing what he's doing and to help him work through that and help him find ways to move away from that. And that doesn't happen in a week. It doesn't happen in 2 weeks. Usually by like day 30, they're maybe, 25% better, but that's why we say you still need to continue care because if you leave today right now and go home, you're just going to relapse. The odds are that you are going to because you're still really mentally struggling with this pattern of behavior.
Can we name, I assume we're allowed to do this. I mean, we're not sponsored by anybody, so can you name like some of what those comfort meds would be because like, when people go home, they may want to get on these quote unquote comfort meds and it could be, not a good thing they don't need them, What are some of those?
The most common ones that are used, and it depends obviously what substance they're, detoxing from, but usually opiates, alcohol, benzos. We use clonidine. So clonidine's an alpha-2 agonist. I know that doesn't mean anything to you guys, but it helps with anxiety, sleep, blood pressure control. So it's a multifaceted drug, that non-controlled substance that helps people.
Not to be confused with Klonopin.
Correct.
The benzo. Even people that are new working in treatment, oftentimes we have to educate them on that. They're like, oh my God, this person has clonidine. Mm-hmm. We're like, it's clonidine, not Klonopin.
Right.
Yeah.
So clonidine, Benadryl or Visceral, which is just a simple antihistamines people use for anxiety or sleep. If people are having restless legs, because that happens often, we use medications like Ropinerol or Requip. And then we use Tylenol, ibuprofen, depending on, what's going on for muscle aches and pains. And sometimes we'll use a muscle relaxer like methylcarbamol. So we have a gamut of medications we use to help them through.
Now, what of those medications that you just named, I mean, obviously Tylenol and ibuprofen, they don't elicit any sort of feeling. I mean, they take away your pain, which is good, but like clonidine or trazodone or like what and I'll base again, I like to reference my own experiences with like something like Seroquel. When I took that for the first time, I was like, holy cow.
Yeah.
You know, so they are kind of mood and mind altering to a certain degree. And I think that's what I'm trying to get at is like drawing awareness to what these medications are and what they can do to somebody.
It depends on somebody's state though too, because like if you're going, and I speak to this from experience, like if I'm going through full blown opiate withdrawal, none of those meds are even touching what I'm feeling. Where if I've been clean for 3 months, different story.
Well, I'm specifically referencing, you know, obviously any medications for the most part, I think are warranted in detox, but people don't like the idea of not having something. Mm-hmm. And then, you know, they get out of detox and then they got 3 to 5 months clean. And, you know, that was my situation. I was on Seroquel for 6 months and I didn't need it. I didn't have sleep issues. The only reason I started taking it was because I saw a couple of people out in the smoking section nodding out. And I'm like, what are you on?
But that's the thing is, and I do see that oftentimes because they're used to taking something no matter what their vice is. So, you know, we do see people replace that with their prescriptions that are non-controlled substances. But in essence, it's because they are used to taking something and feeling something. Whatever that feeling means to them, whether they think it's helping them or not helping them, you know, it's that pattern of behavior.
Right.
And as oftentimes people will leave, I don't want to say always because I don't want to make a blanket statement, but they'll leave a residential level of care and come to us here at Rock at PHB with prescriptions for those medications. And you'll see, you know, people who are really struggling, they'll stay on it for a good 30, 60, 90 days. And then to the other side of that, you see people who feel really good and they're comfortable here and they want to do the work. And they're like, just help me get off everything I possibly can in a safe manner and just have me on the least amount of medication that is possible for me. And so those are the things we work through here.
This might be a little bit of a rabbit trail, but still related. Hearing all the stuff you're talking about with the detox and what'd you say, Jimmy H going 10 times every 2 hours. One thing in detox I know you got to watch out for too is clients who are familiar with the process know that you take vitals, and like the techs and the staff, they got to keep an eye out for guys doing like jumping jacks in the bathroom, because they'll do that so they could come out so their heart rate's up, or what are some of the things that would indicate like
high? Well, when they do vitals, we look at their blood pressure, their heart rate, you know, how fast are they breathing. So you'll see people, they'll go outside and chain smoke, you know, real quick, like 2 cigarettes, and then they'll run back in to the nursing station. And I'm like, dude, I just saw you outside. Like, come on, you know? But you'll see that they'll do jumping jacks, push-ups. Yeah, we've seen it all.
Yeah, because they want that. They want their vitals to be through the roof. And so like what I've seen like the nursing staff do is they'll be like, sit there for 15 minutes.
And then we'll recheck your
and
vitals.
Don't move. Yeah. So they're savvy like that. They figure it out. And when you're sick, the goofy stuff that you'll do, you know?
Yeah, but that goes to the whole ritual and the behavior, you know, part of it is it's tough. And going back to like Suboxone or Subutex conversation that you wanted to have, is taking the Suboxone can become a ritual for people. You know, they don't recognize it or realize it that once they go down that road, their new ritual or habit is going to the doctor, going to the pharmacy, picking up their prescription, taking it, you know, once a day or twice a day, every day at the same time, you know, and then this is their new pattern of behavior. And they don't even understand it or realize it until, you know, like you said, 2 months in, they're like, oh, I want to come off of this medication. But now you're dealing with that mental addiction, the physical addiction, and then, this behavioral issue.
Yeah.
Well, even Suboxone, when it first came out, it was pill form, and I was smashing those up and snorting them. You couldn't really shoot them. It got like really weird in there and jammed up. I think some people figured it out since, but it was like new back then, and I wasn't like a scientist or chemist, like figuring out how to get that thing in the needle. But then even when they like come out with the strips, people make monkey water now and like mix it in water and then snort the water, like, and just all, like anything and I just wanted to really hit home the point, like how powerful the ritual itself is.
Yeah. And even for family members and loved ones, they develop their own rituals, good and bad, with their like taking care of, like, let's say you're my son that's in addiction, and my ritual every day is waking up to see if I had a text or a call from you, and then going, downstairs to check your bedroom to see if you're awake or if you're alive or if you're home. And then maybe going to drink coffee and then checking my computer to see when the last time you posted on social media was, or maybe where your last location was, if I couldn't find you in the house. And then going to work and doing the same thing because I still haven't heard from you. And then, maybe texting my husband saying, hey, have you heard from Tom today? What's going on? I'm really worried about him. And then before you know it, your whole day is taken over because you're obsessed with where they're at, what they're doing, and how they're doing.
We literally just did an episode on this.
Yeah.
So funny.
That just hits home the point. We didn't even mention it to you.
So I think one of the things that we can all agree on, which we agree on everything for the most part. T and I have some difference of opinions on certain things. We're going to save that for another episode. But for the sake of today, we have to replace these rituals with other rituals. And what can those be? So let's just take a couple minutes and unpack this. We don't have much time left. If somebody is ritualistic about, obviously, for me, one of the things was every time I got close to the bar, my withdrawal started to subside a little bit, and the twitching and the shaking started to go away because I knew that I was going to be consuming alcohol in some form. But, when we're new in recovery, we can start replacing these things with other things. And maybe it could be something as simple as going for a walk. And I know it sounds stupid and you're like, oh, Tom, you're bringing up stupid examples. Like anybody can walk, but it's true. Like there's always something that you can do. What do they call it, Ben? The 1,000-pound phone? Why don't you talk a little bit about that?
1,000-pound phone?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, how do you break that one down? When it comes time to, the example everybody gets is like, you get this mental obsession, call your sponsor, all of a sudden the phone's 1,000 pounds. Where when it came to drugs, that phone was like, doot, 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 all day long. Like I'd call 40 times my drug dealer if he didn't answer. My sponsor, on the other hand, I called him a half a ring. He didn't answer, right? Like, getting in the habit of making that phone call and being willing to call somebody else after. Go back to community that we always talk about. Have more than one person in your phone. Have 10 people in your phone that you can call, and you're willing to call back to back if you're feeling like you're having a mental blank spot. Yeah.
I mean, I think you can even, again, these sound very basic and simple, but if you're in an anxious state, a lot of times people would, oh man, let me get another Clonidine. Well, maybe go for the walk or put some music in your ear pods, or like do some sort of exercise or something, or practice like prayer and meditation or journal. I mean, there's always things that we can do.
Instead of a drug ritual, be spear ritual.
That was good, Ben.
Yeah,
leave it to Ben for the dad jokes.
That's how I break it down, though. We've talked about it before. Yeah. The word spiritual, spirit rituals. What are you doing to fill your spirit today?
Yeah, that's good.
That's a ritual in itself. And in recovery, we get into rituals. Your home group, calling your sponsor at a certain time every day, doing your inventory, saying your morning prayer. Same thing.
Exercise.
Yeah, you know,
Doesn't have to
Tom,
go to the gym.
you said you were giving out goofy examples or something along. These are actually legit.
No, I know. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Just giving you some positive affirmation there.
Speaking of exercise, did I tell you about my shoulder issues?
Yeah.
Oh, it's so painful. It hurts so bad.
Still?
Yeah.
I'm prescribing MAPS Prime.
Well, I'm essentially doing MAPS Prime, but at a physical therapist's office.
But that doesn't mean you can't do cardio.
I ain't doing cardio. Get the hell out of here.
You
This
can't-
is crazy.
That doesn't mean you can't do other types of legs.
I was not even suggesting that I'm not exercising. I was simply sharing with you my shoulder pain.
Oh, okay. When's the last time you exercised?
Well, at physical therapy yesterday, it was very exercising. Like it was tough. No, but the day, I think it was maybe the day before yesterday, and that's what prompted me to call because I couldn't bench. Literally, I would I thought the bar was gonna fall on me because I can't. It hurts so bad. So I go to the guy's office and I have no external rotation in my shoulders. And this is it. That's all I got. And right there, it hurts. And if you're curious and you want to see, you can go on YouTube. But I can't move at all.
Poor Tom can't even do a front double by.
A what?
Front double by.
What's that?
The pose.
Oh gosh, bodybuilder. T, did I tell you about my Ninja Creamy?
Yeah, you did. I want to get one. I need to get recipes from you.
I only have 2.
You bought 2?
No, 2 recipes.
Oh, okay.
You know who puts recipes up all the time that catch my interest, but I just don't make?
Chris Powell.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Dude, I made okay. Let's see. What kind of protein powder do you use?
Advocare. Whey protein.
Chocolate or vanilla?
Depends on what kind of shake I'm making.
But one or the other? Okay, so here's what you can do. Get a Ninja Creamy. You have to start there.
I know. I want to.
Yeah. Go to Costco. They're $180, I
Yeah.
think. 1 cup of Fairlife. I mean, use
I like
whatever the hell
Fairlife.
milk you want, but I use Fairlife, 2%. 1 cup of that, 1 scoop of protein, Jell-O sugar-free pudding mix.
What flavor?
I have vanilla and white chocolate.
Okay.
I use white chocolate. 1 teaspoon of that. You don't need a lot.
Okay.
And a half of a cup of cottage cheese.
Okay.
Put it in. Do you have like a Ninja blender?
Yes, I
Yeah.
do.
So put it in the Ninja blender, blend it up really good.
Okay.
And then pour it in the container that it comes with and you freeze it overnight.
Okay.
Take it out the next day, put it in your Ninja Creamy. It does its thing. And then, only then, you get you, and I know you got these in the pantry,
What?
Oreos.
I do not.
Oh, you got to get them.
I told Pierre today, I said, this house is a prison. There's no food in here
Why?
because there's no snacks.
Pierre's not he's not a snack guy, is he?
No.
Well, I mean, you're going to have to fend for yourself then.
Okay.
Get 2 Oreos, separate them. I learned this from Chris Powell. I mean, it's not really. Anyways, separate them. Take the cream out of the middle.
Okay.
Put them in a Ziploc baggie. Crush them up. Put them in your ice cream, and then put it back in. Respin. Cookies and cream, baby. Vanilla. Or you can put
Makes
in.
me hungry.
Yeah, and also if you throw in a half of banana too, little hint of banana. Ben, you're not allowed to have any of this stuff.
What's
so
the macronutrient breakdown?
I have no idea, but it's a lot of protein because you got there's
Cottage cheese, the whey protein.
yeah.
Okay.
And you can't eat the whole thing. I
okay.
can't. I mean, I ate half of it and I'm like, ugh.
There's not enough calories in that for you to have the energy to do all the dishes that you're going to have to do. She has 3 air fryers to wash. Now a Ninja blender, a Ninja Creamy. Dude.
What are you talking about? It's 2 containers.
But she has
We're
3
not
air
even
fryers
talking
that
about
she
the
uses
air fryer.
simultaneously.
Air fryer does not have any like, we're not talking about that. We're talking about the Ninja Creamy. It's 2 containers. That's it. And a couple of spoons.
After dinner.
And then when
Sounds good.
when you're done eating it, you put the cap on it and throw it back in the freezer. You have it for the next day.
The kids like it.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. I made a fruit.
They didn't get a bite. You could tell he just lied.
No, they
Yep.
do. They like it. I gave them some. Yeah.
Are they allowed to eat ice cream?
Like probably one of
Yeah.
the taste
Oh,
spoons.
okay.
Yeah.
I don't know. Some
course.
people are weird.
No, when Levi was
that.
first growing up, like when he was like, he didn't have really any sugar. But then I'm kind of like, I don't know, I might be messing him up by not allowing him to have any. But now it's kind of pivoted to the complete opposite side.
Yeah.
So now he can't get away from sugar. So this is like a good thing. Like, and
Yeah.
they don't know the difference. My dad doesn't know the difference. And my dad's like a sugarholic.
Yeah.
Big time. So you should get one.
I want to. I've been wanting to.
Yeah. So
Can you bring me some?
no.
You should just buy one for here. We should buy
Oh,
one
then
for
can you
here.
make me some?
No, see, that's what I'm saying. It'd be my sole responsibility.
What else?
Because
do you do
nobody
around
would
here?
want to learn how to use it.
Tom, you love to cook.
Remember
Remember back in the day, he had the Traeger here,
Yeah.
and he would make us steaks and stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. And everybody was taking my niceness and using it against me.
Maybe you just went for being grumpy occasionally back then to grumpy all the
know.
time.
No, maybe you guys kept taking advantage of me and I finally stood up for myself. All right. Is that it? Are we done?
I'm kind of having fun.
Well, do you have anything to share?
Not on that.
Okay. T, any final thoughts?
Nope, I'm good.
All right. That is it for this episode of Real Recovery Talk. Thank you for tuning in. In the end, if you have any comments, questions, or concerns, you can always reach us. info@realrecoverytalk.com. Again, that's info@realrecoverytalk.com. And ultimately, we want to help you turn your mess into your message. That is it. We will see y'all later.